numbers game. Money makes the world go round and the circle's circular, doesn't it ever? Circulate Capital is an investment management firm dedicated to financing innovation, companies and infrastructure that prevent the flow of plastic waste into the world's ocean while advancing the circular economy. Please welcome Managing Director, Asia for Circulate Capital, Regula Schegg.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be here. In our first session this morning with Mr. Wong, he mentioned that one of the key reasons why we only have not even 10% of the plastic recycled globally is lack of finance. Let me shine light into that issue and the industry and why there is a lack of finance. I would like to start with a few numbers, and you might have heard them, but I think they're key to understand and put it into context. Now we have 150 million tons of plastic in the ocean today, and there is an estimate of 8 million tons added every year. What does that mean? That's about 1 truck of plastic a minute. 1 truck. But if you step back and look at it, it's actually doable to manage and get it diverted. Because alone the city of New York actually manages 14 million tons a year. And if they manage to recycle and divert the solid waste, then we can do this with 8 million. That means that we need to look into investing into the infrastructure in the countries where actually the big part of the plastic is leaking. 45% of the plastic leaking today is in some of the key Southeast Asian countries. Not just because they produce it, but because also a lot of plastic is actually still imported from countries in the Western world. This is China, this is Vietnam, this is Indonesia, countries where there is a lack of infrastructure to manage the solid waste produced daily. There's about $5 billion needed to just tackle that issue alone. So where will that money come from? Well, that money needs to come from institutional investors. That cannot come from small investors, but really from the big money. But why are they not there? Why is there still lack of capital while we know that we need to switch off the faucet and we need to build the infrastructure? Because there is this so-called missing middle. That means institutional investors do not have the underlying or the supporting ecosystem to invest. There is a lack of visible pipeline to invest. There's a lack of evidence-based track record. They need that to be able to invest. There is a lack of supporting ecosystems. And then there is also a lack of actually financial products which allow them to invest. And that's really where we at Circulate Capital plan to come in and are actually coming in. Because we want to tackle that issue and we want to really come in where this missing middle is, which is the so-called catalytic capital. Circulate Capital, the management firm I'm working for, we're here to invest in companies in South and Southeast Asia with focus on India, Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, and the Philippines, to really invest in companies which are having the capacity to recycle plastics, which are willing to do so, have the technology, but which lack the capital. We want to enable these companies to grow to the next step, to actually absorb more. We do that by giving them not only the capital, but also by linking them to the multinational companies out there who need that recycled content. So the Ocean Fund itself, which is really focusing on South and Southeast Asia, will do so by giving that capital, by building that ecosystem, by connecting them to the multinationals. And then we partner up with other organizations, public and private, to really build the ecosystem around, the ecosystem which is needed. Because capital is one thing, we can invest in companies, but there are communities out there, the informals. The entire waste shed of a city has to be looked at very systemically. And the initiative, as one of our mission-aligned organization, will tackle that. They're actually here to incubate these smaller businesses, to enable that environment, to have them grow to the next level where they eventually may need additional capital, to amplify the messages, to get out there, to change the mindset of people, to really start at the ground, building these ecosystems needed. Now, we have developed a blended finance mechanism to actually build that catalytic capital. And some of our founding investors, and we heard them also this morning, are like Pepsi-Cola, Danone, Coca-Cola, Dow, Chevron Phillips, Procter & Gamble, and Unilever. But then we also have the public money coming in, and we have been given a guarantee by the USAID to de-risk our debt. We invest in companies up to $35 million US. And I think that is key, this partnership of public and private money to actually now incubate and get the money into the industry to then make it attractable for the institutional investors. Over the last 2 years, we've looked at about 200 investment opportunities alone in Southeast Asia. And what we learned is that the time is really ready. There are companies out there who need the capital. We need to start linking them up with those who need the plastics. We need to start linking them up with the big money and the big capital out there. And with that, we can actually really start reducing 45% of the plastic leakage alone in these countries. It can be done, and we will get it done. And what we learned, however, is that most of these companies out there, and whether it's in Indonesia or in India, they lack 4 things. And it's access to feedstock, access to expertise, access to offtake, and then finance. Now, finance, we come in right now with providing them loans, equity, or convertible, depending on the stage of the company, depending on their appetite and their growth. But we also enable and help them to actually get access to feedstock, and that means sustainable, high-quality plastic for recycling. That means access to the informal communities where a lot of picking is happening, but that also means access to the governments who play a part in dealing with solid waste. And now I've talked a lot about plastic, and we heard everything about plastic today, but it's actually starting at the solid waste management level. This is where we need to start, looking at collection and sorting of solid waste, particularly at the household level, at post-consumer. And it's not per se just a plastic issue. To get to the high-quality plastic, we need to get down to the communities, to the individual household, start separating there to prevent particularly leakage, but also contamination, to then really have sustainable feedstock for these companies to actually produce the necessary recycled content. They need expertise. We provide that as part of our vehicle, expertise to build their operation to the next level, to actually, and what we heard this morning, have proper wastewater systems, bring it to the level where they qualify for the needs of the European companies, of global companies, to make sure that when we talk about food grade, from bottle to bottle, that they can actually produce that quality. And that is really needed to bring them to the next level. And then they need access to and relationships to the offtake. They need to secure what they produce, that this is taken off. And here the multinationals come in to be all those who now committed to recyclable content, whether that is 25% or 50% by 2025, they now have to come in, and they do come in, to actually partner up with these companies to take that material for recycling. So all that is needed, and all that we try to provide. Now, we have developed 3 pathways to tackle this issue of plastic leaking into the ocean and bringing it back into the circular economy. For us, there is the path of innovation, and we heard a little bit about that also this morning, and some of the companies have been up here. It's about new materials, new distribution systems, so that plastic, or single-use plastic in particular, can be prevented. It's about diversion and really focusing on collection and sorting to make sure we get the plastic off the landfill and make sure it cuts back into the circular economy before it leaks. And it's then ultimately about the markets pathway we see, which really means getting it into processing capacity, take a PET bottle, flake it, wash it, get it back into a PET bottle where the companies actually come in and have a huge appetite for. I think for us, and where we see most of the need is really on the diversion and the markets, a lot of mechanical recycling, bring it back into circular economy and use it for future products. Now, we do focus on investing now, but we have to make sure that every investment we look at, we have the future in mind, to make sure that the investments we have do not have negative externalities. Because actually it is a system problem and we need system solution. And one act, as we do and we've shown before, by having public and private money coming in, by having NGOs and for-profit entities working with us, we all have to come in to catalyze these innovations. So that's just an introduction to what we do and how we see capital coming into the game, particularly catalytic capital, so that we can really bridge that gap from how much money is today in the industry to the billions needed by institutional investors to come in and to understand that this is indeed an investable space worthwhile to look at. Thank you very much, and I look forward to the discussion.